what does unhealthy FI look like for you?
Oh, I can tell you from experience. Yeah, my early 20s was just this constant, this constant existence of like, this is how I feel about this thing. Don't you dare cross me or tell me I'm wrong. Like, don't like, I will fight you on this issue. I don't care how uncomfortable you're going to feel because I'm right, you're wrong. And just so not taking a step back and being open to hearing and actually listening and understanding the other person because you're so passionate about this thing, you want it to come across. It's still like, of course I have second FI. If a passionate topic of mine comes up, it's something I still struggle with a lot, to just be like, okay, Kristin, you have to understand the other person, turn off that brain that's already crafting your next response. Like, just take a step back and understand this person right now, hear a different perspective right now.
Not everyone's FI is going to align with ours,
No, FI can be so biased. It is just biased naturally. So, understand, like, unhealthy FI would just be like living in that, getting really like angry and passionate about things to the point where like the people around you are like, oh, we've touched a nerve, and they don't feel like they can express themselves. So that's unhealthy FI.
And the childishness of it too, like, can really come out when it's in that mode. It's like, this is what I want, I don't care what you think, like, you're not going to tell me what to do, like, I do what I want, kind of thing.
Yeah
for sure. I know, like, kind of like what I said before, when my FI gets too like attached to a certain NI plan that I have, having that NI FI kind of working together, it's like, it's good in the sense that, hey, I get passionate to work towards that plan and do whatever I need to do to see it through. But in an unhealthy sense, I can get too like emotionally invested in that plan to the point where if something goes wrong, like, I'll go berserk. Like, my FI I'll just have an FI tantrum.
Exactly. It's so, gosh, it's one of the reasons typology has been so helpful for me. Honestly, that FI, she can be hard to tame. And I've seen it. Like, I can think of like one or two maybe FI dominant users who are more on the unhealthy side. And it's just honestly at the point where, like, if you see that you've triggered something in them, I just take a step back. I'm like, it's not even worth it. Because you just know they're just running with this bias that they don't even know they're using.
For sure.
And you're just kind of like, I'm not even going to bother. And I'm like, I don't want people to feel like that around me, so I need to make sure I have a tap on this,
For sure. Sometimes, like in a theoretical sense, I love, like, I guess, observing FI DOMs. Like, I just get really fascinated by just how like passionate they get about these things that they value and how they'll do anything to stand up for those values. Like, I actually kind of appreciate that sometimes. As long as my FI is in line with their FI, I really appreciate their tendency to just, stick to their guns and not let anyone's TE walk over them. But, like, from an observant standpoint, I don't want to get involved when they get in a FI tantrum and get all like in your face about,
I've heard FI users describe FE as inauthentic and FE users describe FI as selfish, which just tells you
in their unhealthy state. For sure. FE is FE is like superficial and fake in its unhealthy state. FI is selfish and childish in its unhealthy state. TE is bossy and TE is bossy and rude in its unhealthy state. TI is a know-it-all, like, they think they know the answer to everything kind of unhealthiness. What are some of the healthy things that you've seen with FI though? Like, in what ways can FI help you get into a healthy mental state?
So it's always a struggle whenever I'm in a conversation about something I'm passionate about and I'm being disagreed with. But because I have such a good understanding of my own feelings and I'm very emotionally aware, thanks be to God, it's taken a while to get there. I would think I'm quite emotionally aware because FI just governs everything that I do. Like, it's just present in everything. I'm always feeling something. If you ask me at any time of the day, how do you feel? I'll have an answer for you. And I'm always like, when I go to sleep at night, I'll be thinking about how I'm feeling and making sense of my emotions. It's just a constant dialogue, like monologue that's going in my head. And sorry, I don't mean constant. Obviously, when I'm in SE, I don't have anything going on in my head when I'm
I get what you mean.
dom messing. But yeah, it's just something I think about multiple times a day. So as a result, I'm very aware of like emotional nuances that might be going on within someone, and I can pick up like if they're responding externally a certain way, I can pick up like what they might be feeling internally. As a result, when I'm in conversations with people where I know I might have that FI response, if I just realize I'm about to have the FI response, the childish one, I immediately silence myself. I'll either take a break from the conversation if I know it's like a high stakes conversation and there's a risk of me being problematic, to make sense of my feelings and come back with a rational head, or I will switch it off and then apply my FI understanding of other people's emotions to that person in the moment. So in the moment, I'll be so focused on how I'm feeling and my bias, because I'm triggered by like the emotional bias I have, right? I actively choose to turn that off and instead look at that person's emotions and where they're coming from and what might be triggering them. And in doing that, I suddenly have a really good understanding of how to talk to them and understand, and like I just have the lens of understanding on. But it's amazing how if I don't take that active step to turn that mode on, I'll just be focused on myself, like in that childish bias. It's so fascinating. Like even after all these years, you know,
Yeah.
all these years, like I'm some old person, but you know.
Do you think being like in touch with the FI and like having it work together with SE in that way, like, do you think you feel happy most of the time in general?
It's very hard for me to say that in the context of just coming out of lockdown where I haven't been able to use my SE. I am a happy person, generally speaking. But I think there's a difference between happiness and joy. Joy is like that interior piece. Yeah. So I am absolutely a happy person. You can like hang out with me. I always know how to pick up the mood. I always know how to bring the party to people. I always know how to get people out of their heads and immersed in the moment. I'm always like endeavoring to make people entertained and laugh and stuff. Happy for sure. And I feel happy in those moments because I get great joy and fulfillment out of making other people entertained and happy, right? Mm-hmm. But the joy is something different. It's like that only once I'm in touch with my FI and like understand my FI and am utilizing NI in healthy ways and TE as well, then I have the actual inner joy. And that's like astronomically better than just like momentary happiness.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm glad you touched upon that because there's definitely a difference between joy and happiness. You can kind of think of happiness as like dependent on circumstances. It's like you feel good because of XYZ. That's happiness. But if you feel good just because you have that inner state of like peace and contentment without having to explain why, like that's more joy. Like it's not dependent on something external.
Yeah.
Whereas happiness has to be dependent on something external going on.
And I actually think ESFPs in particular, I don't know about putting other types under this umbrella, but like I think ESFPs would be the type who would present as really happy, but less likely to have the joy behind it.
I could totally see that. Yeah, because the SE is very dependent. Like a lot of the FI stems from what the SE is experiencing externally. And that's kind of what's giving the feel good vibe.
And like that's why like a lot of people, when you hear about mental health, mental illness, it would be the people you like least expect, right? Because they present as happy a lot of the time.
For sure.
But like with ESFPs, you don't. Not only are you so immersed in the present experience that you're not introspecting, generally speaking, naturally, but you also have SE and TE, two functions that are very much about getting things done right now. So we want a solution to everything immediately, and we want to know how to work through things. We don't want to do the hard work that's involved, and we don't want to wait. So that's why the general like being still contemplating those things that make you happy with yourself, the inner peace, doesn't come naturally to us to do that, to work on that.
Yeah. Do you think for you it's being more attuned to the inner peace that's not so dependent on, what's getting done or things going on around you, just having that inner sense of joy. Do you think a lot of that has built up because of being more in touch with FI and NI together as opposed to SE and FI together? Or
yeah, my inner joy is, it's hard to separate the functions, because my inner joy is just definitely from introspecting more. I mean, it's the faith. If I didn't have my faith, I wouldn't have the joy that I have. But like, yeah, to speak in cognitive functions terminology, FI and NI for sure, because I feel like I have more control of things when I am thinking about the future and implications of my actions. I feel like I have an understanding of my actions better, and my understanding of my SE better if I've tapped into that NI and FI. The introspection has really helped me with getting that joy. At the same time, I can't just, if I was to just spend a day in FI and NI without using TE or SE, I wouldn't feel the joy at the end of the day. Like maybe I would, but I would feel quite like slothful and like I didn't do anything that would really bother me. I wouldn't feel like I'd fulfilled purpose for the day. So maybe I would have the joy, like peace, maybe. I don't know. I haven't done a day like this. But my most joyful days with that inner joy is when I'm out experiencing, doing, but I'm not doing anything that's in conflict with my FI values. Yeah. And I know that it's building towards something for my future with that NI. So I'm building towards healthy relationships, healthy self-development. When I've got that with the FI, like knowing that I'm like staying in, my actions are in tune with my values, and then I'm doing things, so I'm fulfilling tasks, but I'm also experiencing, that's like ultimate joy. All of my functions are working together in harmony, and I'm like loving life.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I would say I can relate to that too, because, at the end of the day, like what gives me joy is I definitely do have to have that NI-FI introspection where I'm, in touch with, what do I like? What are my values? And how am I going to take those values to, work towards this future that I'm like so like hyper focused on. But like, so yeah, making sure that I have that, that sense of like, where is this going? Where am I going? Do I have something to work towards? Do I have something to work towards that I deep down FI value? That's the basis of my joy. I mean, the actual basis, of course, is my faith. But like, if we're talking functions to explain it, yeah, the basis is basically this NI FI working together, where it's like, I have my values, like, for example, my faith. And then it's like, I have like this future idea of how I can live out that faith so that, certain things can happen to fulfill, who I'm living for. But also like the real joy it's not complete until I'm actually TESE doing stuff to make that a reality. It's kind of like what you explained, but the energy is directed towards the opposite. I guess that makes sense though. Honestly,
yeah, it does.
But yeah.